What's up, sister? It's your girl Danielle, and welcome back to the Pretty Powerful Podcast.
I would just look at myself in the mirror and be like, I don't even know who you are. Like, it was almost like an out-of-body experience. And it was really hard for me to get people to listen to me, to understand that.
All right, friends, we're back. And today I'm so excited for you to get to meet my new friend, because I now officially have decided, Athena, that you are my friend. We are actually friends in real life, but not really. We just met, and I'm so excited because she is going to share some really awesome stuff with us today. So before I just let her just jump in and tell us all the things, let me give you a quick rundown. This is Athena Estelle, which, first of all, I just told her, how did she get so lucky to have like the best name ever? I mean, it's so romantic and like celebrity style. I wasn't blessed like mom and dad, like listen to this, like Athena Estelle, hello. Anywho, okay, she fought a very serious and long battle with postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. She is now on the other side of her journey and progressing through her healing. She started the Delivered podcast to share awareness, debunk the PPD stigma, and promote healing through the stages of postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. And today, we're going to see where the conversation takes us. But she's all about self-worth and body image and power positive thinking. And so she is just the perfect person to be on this podcast. So Athena, welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. Okay, so give us a rundown. Like, who is Athena? How did you end up here? I obviously, like, your story led you to your podcast, but other than that, give us a little background on you and how we got here.
Sure. So I just think a lot of people would describe me as someone who is, super outgoing. I could probably talk to a wall. I have no problem, opening up and making a new friend, which I think is hard as adults, as you're growing up, you meet a person on the street, they play the same sport as you, they go to your school, whatever it is, you start talking to them, you're like instant friends. I feel like in adulthood, it's so different because everyone is like so established in their friend group. Like, these are these friends, these are these friends. And it's kind of like, okay, do you want to be friends?
I know. I feel like it's almost like dating. Like, I have to be like, do you want to be friends with me? Like, let's be friends on social media. Keep in touch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I love that.
Yeah. So, just outgoing, like, love to just love life and make connections. And I value my friendships and my family a lot. So I am Greek by background. So I am super close to my family, both sides of my family. My dad is not Greek. He is an English mutt. He is like English, Irish, Scottish, and then a little Native American Indian. So he's a whole conglomeration, and I'm very close to his side as well. But just having that, very tight-knit family vibe, it's definitely a big part of who I am. So that's just a little tidbit for you.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, and so tell us then let's just assume that people listening are kind of like me. I have never had children before, so I cannot say that I've experienced this. And this is why I was so excited when I read to be part of the podcast. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, because I just had a woman, I'm all about, body image, and I coach women through that and wellness and all the things. But I had a woman recently who said, I am going through postpartum depression and I'm really struggling with my body image after having my first child. And it's really, really challenging for me. And, obviously I can help with body image, but I've never personally experienced that. So tell us, how did you, a little bit of that story of what you went through, and also then what made you decide to use that story, right, to start your podcast and really start sharing, where a lot of women, right, we don't talk about that. So anyways, okay, I'll ask lots of questions later. So the first one was, tell us a little bit about that story and what you experienced, if for those of us who have never experienced it before.
Sure. Okay, so I will keep it as brief as I can because it is a very lengthy story. But the meat and potatoes is I was pregnant at the height of COVID, which had its own anxiety because I do work in healthcare. I'm a full-time physical therapist. So I was working at a skilled nursing facility at the time. And, I never treated a COVID patient being pregnant. That's just protocol. But, 10 feet from me in the room next door could be a COVID patient. And then there were specific parts of our building that were becoming almost like a COVID unit. So if you had to walk through it to get patients, you're talking 10 COVID patients in a row that I'd have to walk by to get to mine. And knowing that it's airborne, meaning you catch it through the air and through like particles in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
That was just so stressful to me because you don't have to touch anybody. You don't have to be near them. It is literally in the air. So that was the first level of anxiety that I started to feel. And then getting closer and closer to birth, I was not progressing at all. So I went in at my 40-week appointment. They said, "We are so confused why you're still pregnant." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they said, "You're active." I was still, I will not call it running because it was not justified running. It was like a jog, like a walk jog situation.
Yeah.
And I was very proud that I was still able to do that. So for me, I was very confused why I was still pregnant as well. So I had no movement, nothing was going on. I went in a week later for my 41 week. Again, no movement, nothing, but they said, unfortunately, we're going to have to induce you. So I went straight to the hospital. They, let me in. It sounds so silly, but, we're so used to the hospital being like hustling and bustling and people in the lobby, people in, rooms, family members everywhere. Well, COVID times, it was a ghost town. So I get to the hospital and there's no one waiting because no one's allowed. There's no one even in the lobby. The whole food court is closed. Nothing's open. It is 2 security guards and myself. And my mom was visiting from Ohio, so she was helping me carry my bags into the hospital. Well, the security guard stops her right at the door. And he's like, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but, you can't come in." And I look at him. I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "We're not allowing any escorts. We're not allowing any families." And I said, "But what about my stuff?" And we all kind of started laughing. And I'm like, "I really don't care about my stuff, but my husband's on his way from work and I will not be okay if I have to go in alone." So he apologized. He got me a wheelchair and a nice nurse came down. So my mom had to go home and that was its own emotional experience. And then, long story short, I had my daughter. She was very healthy. She was fine, but she was just very undersized. So they estimated that she was going to be 7 pounds, 6 ounces. And she was born 5 pounds, 13 ounces.
Wow.
So almost a 2-pound difference, that's a lot. So I encourage, girls that are not pregnant and women that are currently pregnant, do not get attached to that number because it is a full-blown estimation. And certain technology is better than others, absolutely. But that's a big variable number. So with that being said, it was really hard to get weight on her. It was really hard for her to keep weight on. She was in like the number one, like literally 99% of people heavier than her for a month. And then I think around her 6-week appointment, she was in the 3rd percentile. So extreme small. So getting weight on her was my biggest battle. And that came with breastfeeding challenges. And part of that was pride because I was not ready to let that go. But I think for me, I really wanted to try the hardest that I could. And I felt like that was the best for her. So a couple months later, we go in. She's finally, I think she was in the 9th or 10th percentile. And then at that appointment, the pediatrician mentioned that he noticed a flat spot on her head. And I was like, "Are you joking? I literally just got some weight on this kid. I'm finally sleeping. She's sleeping. What are you talking about?" So we took her to physical therapy to stretch out one of the muscles in the side of the neck. It's called torticollis. And it's when the muscle that connects your skull to your neck, it gets so tight, it causes the child's head to tilt to that side and it can rotate their head. So it can bring their ear behind their shoulder, or if it's rotated to the other side, it can rotate it toward the front of their body. So it's very obvious when a child has torticollis. Most of the times they grow out of it, but you want to start stretching as soon as you can. It didn't work as well as it should have. So she needed a helmet. And it's not the aesthetics of the helmet for me because, in physical therapy, I have patients with braces, I have amputations with prosthetic limbs, those type of things. But it was more so another aspect of failure of something that I didn't notice, something maybe I didn't stretch her enough. Maybe I let her lay in a certain position too long. So it was just all these little things of failure that kept popping up for me. And I think it just destroyed my mental health. And I think part of that is just awareness that I didn't have at that time to know, you're a new mom, you're a first time mom. Like, give yourself some grace, those type of things. And so I went on for 37 days with my husband. We saw several psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, and it became a full blown hunt to find the right doctor that could help, that would listen to me about the anxiety. Because for me, it started as pure anxiety, severe crippling anxiety. I was not sleeping. I had insomnia set in. And not toward the very end did it kind of turn into the depression. And for me, that's really where the body image really took a tanking. Like I said before, I'd always been athletic and in tune with my body and eating healthy and working out. And then for me, I would just look at myself in the mirror and be like, I don't even know who you are. Like, it was almost like an out of body experience. And it was really hard for me to get people to listen to me, to understand that. So I was eventually admitted to the hospital because we just could not get the right medication cocktail that would work for me as far as the anxiety and the insomnia. So I was in the hospital for 12 days, and then I went through a very intense day program for 7 weeks, then finally reintegrated back to work about 2 weeks later. So I was off work for 11 weeks total and went back to work, was somewhat successful. It took me about a year to get my groove back, and things were going really well. So that was all the beginning of 2021 through the fall of 22. This past January rolls around, January of 23. I had been meeting with the same psychiatrist for about a year and a half. And I told her, I said, I don't think these meds are working anymore. I feel great. I don't think I need to take them anymore. I think I'm ready to come off of them. And she said, well, I respect that, but it's been a very long journey. I need to go very slow. So we began the weaning process in January. And as of June 13th, 2023, I came off all my meds. I completed all my therapy, and I feel like I'm in such a better place. I mean, I might be in a better place now than I was before I had the baby. So it's just been a huge, huge blessing.
Okay, there were so many nuggets there that I'm like, okay, I need to remember what you said. Okay, first of all, not love, because I wish that you would have never had to go through any of this, right? But
Sure.
I appreciate you mentioning, failure, right? Like you mentioned that a couple times, like I just felt like I was failing, right? With feeding her, getting weight on. And then right now I didn't pay attention. I didn't see, could I have laid her differently? Could I have, right? And all of it, that coming to, I'm failing as a mom, right? And I can only, that makes sense to me as someone who's never been a mom. I'm like, I could totally see that. I think as women in general, we're always wanting to be perfect. We're always expecting, right? That we should have noticed something, that we pay attention to details, like if our friend's dating someone, we're going to find out if he's cheating. Like, we're just those type,
Yes.
That's who we are. And we're so aware of other people and taking care of other people. And so I can only imagine that, like, and then you become a mom and now you're like totally in control of another human's life, to expect that you're going to be perfect in that. And when you're not, and it's out of your control, like literally it was not in your control that, she was birthed underweight, and then everything that happened, like none of that was in your control. And yet you still felt like a failure. And so I just think it sucks that that was your reality, and then it's a reality for so many people, especially women. But I think that's such like a connecting piece that, so many people, whether you've experienced postpartum or not, that whole idea of I shouldn't be failing at this, and yet I am, and then how that affects, life. So I really appreciated you like calling that out, and also celebrating the fact that, because I could see it in the switch in your face when you were, you're telling your story, and then you say, and just, just a few months ago, right? I'm off my meds, I'm feeling better. It's like all this stuff. And so celebrating that, number one, is amazing, but also going back and celebrating the fact that you made the decision to ask for help. So many people are sitting around not asking for help because they are afraid what people will think, or, they think that they should be able to figure it out themselves or whatnot. So I think even I shouldn't say bigger, but equally important is celebrating the fact that you made the decision to ask for help and to do something about it, and, and take that journey and that process. So I just had to call that out. Okay. So now that we got like the background of how we like got here, obviously you asked for support, you got medication, you went to the hospital, you went through a program, you did all those things. For someone who might be listening, who's like, I am not ready yet to go through that. I don't feel like I need to go to the doctor. I don't feel like I need to do that, but I do feel like I have symptoms, and I do feel like I'm struggling with anxiety or postpartum depression or whatnot, and they're not ready to take that next step. What are some things that you did that just anybody can do that really helped you with that self-worth part of it, the whole positive, like what is power of positive thinking to you? And like, how did you what are some things that you did tangibly that other people could try starting now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, I got to the point where I would tell my husband back then, I said, when I feel like I can't live my life, like that's the problem. Like that for me was the switch where I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I feel like I have no control over anything. And I was like barely functioning. So for me, that's when I was like, oh no, this is really bad. Like I need a lot of help. But I think before then, what I would absolutely recommend is find someone, whether it's your partner or your spouse or your best friend or your mom or somebody that you can tell everything. I mean, everything, the ugly, the bad, the suicidal thoughts, whatever the worst is that's going on in your brain, you need to have at least one person that you can go to and really tell them about it. Because I think for me, I was quiet for a very long time because, like you said, the stigma is so huge and strong. And even if you don't want to admit that, it's there. It's just part of society, unfortunately. So I think you have to be able to honor where you are. And, we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes, but we all deserve peace at the end of the day. So whatever that looks like, whether that's, for me, that was confiding in my husband at first and then telling my dad and my mom, but it was also journaling. I am a firm believer in, I have a gratitude journal that is just gratitude. I do a daily, like 3 things a day. So something my therapist taught me, but I recommend it for everyone, is you write down 3 things every day. And every Saturday you go back and look and see how your week was. So you write down 1 thing that made you happy, 1 thing that made you angry, and 1 thing that you're grateful for. And some days, I mean, my most basic of basic, the thing that made me happy would be like sunshine, like the sun was shining today, And then the thing I was grateful for would be like my dog or like a sandwich or like something. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think when you are so wrapped up in, for me, like I said, it was just like the failure, the negativity. It's really hard to reach for a positive. But I think, like I said, we are all on journeys to have peace and balance in our lives. So I think you have to give attention to the good and the positive things that are around you every single day. Even if you don't want to admit it, there is positive things. I mean, for me, my partner was extremely supportive. So that was something in the moment. I was just so far gone. I couldn't even really appreciate that for what it was. But looking back, I'm like, bro, I'm lucky that you didn't leave. So yeah, it's wild. So I would say find someone to confide in. Absolutely. Second, journal. Whether you're just writing Some days I would call it my vomit journal, my other journal. So I'd have a gratitude journal and then like a daily. And sometimes that vomit journal was just like, I am so mad because da 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 da. So those two things I would say were huge. The third I would say for me personally is I do believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm a very involved person in our church. It's a huge part of my life, my relationship with Jesus. So I would write down different Bible verses that I've either known my whole life or that I currently read, or a new verse, and I'd put it on an index card. But then I also have a couple friends, they would put either positive mantras or they would put just positive phrases like, you got this, keep going. Like the sun will rise tomorrow. And I would carry around those index cards in my purse at the time. So if I had to go to a meeting or a therapy or wait for the doctor, if I was feeling super anxious, I could just whip those cards out real quick and look at and see the sun will rise tomorrow. Like take a breath, breathe, you know? So just little things like that. I don't know how helpful that is, but it was
Sister,
helpful for me.
no, that is so helpful. Like, and like you said, there's small things. They might seem small, but they're actually really big because number one, they helped you. So proof is there. And, it's just, it goes back to that whole power of positive thinking. And like you said, we get so wrapped up, I think about it, in regard to like your spouse or your whoever, your significant other, or even a best friend or a roommate, whoever, someone that you spend so much time around. Think about all the times, right? When you start cleaning and you're like, oh, I wish they would have picked up that dish, or they should have done that, or they could have done that. And then you're like, you get wrapped up in that mindset of, oh my gosh, why do I have to do everything? They don't do anything, right? And it's the everything, the anything, like the most dramatic things, like our brains just go there. And then when you stop and you're like, okay, calm down. They actually just did the laundry yesterday. They actually did that. They actually cleaned that. So I didn't have to. They did that. They brought me some snacks. And then you're like, oh, okay. So it wasn't everything or nothing or, all the time or no, never, and so our brains just naturally go to those most dramatic places and they can take us down that road. And so essentially what you're saying, again, those are three very small things, but three very small things that take your attention back to the positive, that allow you to get out those feelings and get out those thoughts and allow space for the positive that has been taken away. So don't discredit that, sister. Those are brilliant ideas that live. And what I love about those too is that, again, regardless of anybody's position, I think a lot of times too, we wait until we get to that dramatic spot, right? Where we really don't feel good. We're really down a hole. Like if we did the things that you just said in small amounts every single day, they would help prevent some of that, the anxiety and stuff that could come later. And so I just appreciate those three, like those were big things, sister. So with that being said, you mentioned that you looked in the mirror because, again, body image and self-love and all the things are like totally my jam. So you mentioned that after, so much time, you looked in the mirror and you were like, I don't know who you are, right? Because your body is different, your experiences are different, all the things. So how do you think, or did it, like, what did you have a switch moment where you went from that to being like, oh, it's me. I love myself again. My body is great no matter what. Or, I mean, obviously we're all still on a journey of trying to love and appreciate our bodies every single day. So there's not a right answer here. But is there something like, did you have a switch, or are there things that you've done that helped you look in the mirror and be okay or love your body after having a child?
So at first I would say right before I started struggling. So she was about 4 months old. She was finally gaining. I did know that she might need a helmet. The pediatrician mentioned it to us. It was around that time where the anxiety kind of started crawling up like a roller coaster, like kind of like tracking up. And, I would just finish breastfeeding her, which that's its own mind game of joy, which it is amazing. I will say breastfeeding is an amazing journey. It has its place. It's definitely not for everybody, but I would say for me and my pride, I said, I'm going to do this as long as I can. And when I can't anymore, I will wave the white flag. And that's what I did. And I'm proud of that. And that's fine. But, when you stop breastfeeding, it's not really friendly to the girls. So that was its own mental game, because I would just look at them and be like, oh, my poor body, and then you're kind of soft and like, I lost a lot of muscle because I was in the hospital and I hadn't worked out forever. So it was definitely very hard to look in the mirror. I avoided the mirror for a very long time. Like probably I moved the one mirror out of our master for a year. And I said, I don't even want to see it. I mean, obviously in the bathroom, you have to like look in the mirror, you wash your hands, you put your makeup on. But I was like, ugh. But I would say about a year later, around the time of her first birthday, so that would have been summer of 21. I was out of the hospital. I finished the day program. I was back to work, and we were at her 1-year birthday party. And I don't know if it was a switch, but I would say it was the beginning of finding that peace that I had prior, because someone said to me at the party, like, you look really good. You look really healthy. You're not thin like how you were before, because when I had that postpartum, I mean, I was just not eating. Eating was not a priority. It was not on the table. Nothing tasted good. It just meant nothing to me. So hearing someone say that was kind of like the first, like, oh, okay. And then my husband's sister got married, Auntie Kara. She got married that July. And I remember at her wedding, the whole time I was like, I look atrocious, like next to these people. Like, I need to go. And no one really knew how much I was still struggling, because I was there. So I was present, right? Like I was in the moment. I was at the event. I did the things. But in my brain, complete spasmodic freak out for 3 days. It was hard. But looking back, that Christmas, we got the pictures, and I was like, oh, I guess I kind of do look pretty. Like, okay, mama's all right. And then, I kind of started tapering off the therapy, spring of 22. Things had gotten a lot better. I had started feeling more like myself, and I had started to be able to establish a more solid workout routine. So that was great. But I think something that my therapist taught me in the very beginning, her name is Lauren. I love that. I love her so much. But something that she told me in the very beginning was the phrases should and could are deadly. And I think when we start to attach ourselves to them, like, I should be working out more. I could have worked out more. I shouldn't have breastfed. I could have done formula. All these different scenarios, which none of them have happened. They're all hypothetical phrases, right? Mm-hmm. So I think when you start letting your mind go to those rabbit holes, and you're already saying like, oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. I could have done this. That is just, she used to call it, I'm going to get it wrong. It was something to the effect of like the brain's way of tricking you into thinking that you've done something wrong when you were just living and making choices based on what you knew at the time. So that really stuck out to me. And I would always say, oh, I'm going to remember that. So that really helped me as far as the body image. And then I think, to this day, I'm still not where I wish I was pre-baby, but I think after going through something like postpartum depression and the anxiety and the insomnia, I'm just so happy to be a functioning, joyful adult that's present, that it doesn't really carry as much weight for me as it did before, if that makes any sense.
It makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It makes complete
It's interesting.
Sense. Yeah. Because so often we take those things for granted, right? Number one, that we are able-bodied. That's one. That we even have the option to get up in the morning. That we take for granted, like you said, even something as small as the sunshine, right? Or the flowers, or just the fact that we can open our eyes, that we have people that love us, that we love other people. We just take all those things for granted. And the very breath that we take, right? Every single day, the fact that our hearts are beating, we take that for granted. And we're so, especially when it comes to body image, for women, we're just told our whole entire lives that that's our number one goal, is to try to look pretty. And we haven't been taught how to just be grateful for having a body, for having a body that moves and allows us to be happy and smile and laugh. And like you said, be joyful, right? And so it's all about that. For me, it's always about that body gratitude of just bringing ourselves back to my body loves me. My arms allow me to pet my dog, right? Or hold the babies, or, my legs allow me to have a dance party and walk around and take a walk with my dogs. And so, I do think when I love that mindset that you shared, just after all of this, I'm just grateful that my body is here and I can be joyful, right? And so I love that. And also I have to go back. I didn't want to interrupt you because you were sharing such good stuff. But one thing you said I want to call out again, because I just think it's so powerful, is you mentioned that I think it was in regards to breastfeeding. And you said, I said that I would do it as long as, it worked for me. And when it didn't, I would make that decision. And you said, I am proud of that decision that I made, right? It was right for me. And I think through this and through anything that any of us go through in life, we really have to just stay focused on that, right? What is the choice that's right for me right now? And what can I do to just make myself proud, right? And again, that kind of relates to that, like, should, could type of thing. Like, it's not about what I should do or could do. It's about what makes the most sense for me. And not everyone is going to get that. Not everyone is going to approve. Not everyone's going to like it, but it's my life and I got to do what's best for me. And what's going to help me with my mental health, with my physical health, what makes sense for me and my family, and make that choice and then say, I'm proud of that choice because it was right for me. So snaps to that. I love that you said that. And because again, I think that it's just so powerful, right? Like, and we say those things and don't think anything of it, but how many women don't make choices that would be right for them because they're afraid of what other people think, or what their mom would have done, or what their sister would do, or what they should do or could do or whatever. And so I just love that, you said that was the right decision for me and I'm proud of that. So I think we all get to make more decisions like that.
Thanks, girl.
Yeah. Okay. So girl, this was so good. I thank you for, this isn't an easy topic, right? To talk about. Like you said, there's so much stigma around it. And so I just really appreciate you sharing it. So I forgot to warn you of this. At the end of every episode, I like to do fun, rapid fire questions, like totally random. Are you down for that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's see. And I always just kind of go random. My first question always though is, if you could only choose one food for the rest of your life, like your final meal, like the meal that is like your go-to, what would you choose?
Ooh. Man, I'm Greek. That's not fair. I like a lot of food. Okay, let's see. Okay, it's going to be super lame. There was this Italian restaurant that was here in Florida, and it was one of my favorites. And they made a braised short rib with orchetti noodles, which is like this little disc-like Italian noodle in like this creamy sauce. Oh my God. If it still existed, I would go order it right now.
I love it. It was so detailed. That's so good.
Yeah.
Okay. What is a workout that makes you feel powerful?
Oh, weightlifting for sure. Yeah. Not like CrossFit style, more so just like your old school, like reps and sets for weight, increasing weight as you go, more type.
I like it. One song that makes you feel powerful.
Oh, Survivor, Destiny's Child.
Oh, okay. I like it. It's on my playlist, so I listen to it regularly. So I'm here for that. Okay, let's see. Who is one powerful woman that has inspired you in your life?
Oh, Reese Witherspoon. Sure, I know. It is an interesting choice, but I think she has produced some really solid books. I think that she has become part of a really cool publishing team with her Hello Sunshine brand, and she's done a couple good shows and movies. So yeah, and she seems just like a great mom and like someone I'd like to get a cup of coffee with.
I love this answer, and because I'm going to be honest, I love me some Reese Witherspoon. I've seen like I'm a fan, but I'm not aware of the books and the team used to like. I'm intrigued now. Now I need to go do more research.
Go look up the book after this. Little Fires Everywhere.
Okay, I will. Great.
And it's based in Ohio, which since we're both from Ohio, you will like that.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna go find it now. I mean, after this, I will say bye to you first, then I'll go find it. No, I love that. Okay, so good. Okay, if there is one powerful piece of advice that you could leave for your daughter, what would it be?
Don't sell yourself short. You're worth more than you know.
That's good. I feel like I can just do like a mic drop now and just like be done. I feel like that was like a good cutting point. Like, goodbye. Yeah, no, that was okay. I love that. Okay, what is a daily or consistent habit that helps you step more into like your self-love, self-worth, confidence that you do regularly?
A good face mask, and then this one solid exfoliant that I'm obsessed with. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like super gritty.
Ooh, okay. I love this answer. You have really good answers. This is real good. This is good. Okay. Let me just let's wrap it up here. Did I miss anything where you're like, oh my gosh, I really wanted to share this with people? Any last words that you'd like to leave for people before we say goodbye?
I'll just leave it with one thing. I think that obviously it's very hard to talk about any mental health. It's emotional and it's heavy and it's raw and it's real. But I think if you are struggling with anxiety or depression or suicidal thoughts, whatever it might be, I think if it is affecting your life and it is affecting your relationships and your day to day, then you owe it to your best version of yourself to go get help. And that might just mean calling your OB if you're postpartum. That might mean calling your general practice doctor. That might mean finding a doctor. But your best version of yourself deserves that. And I think when you're so lost, it's so easy to forget that. But you are worth it.
So good. When people listen to this episode, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, Danielle, can you share your new best friend with me too? And I'm going to say, I guess. So where would you like people to find you, learn more information about you, hang out with you? Where would you like them? Is there social media or do you just want to send them right to the podcast? Tell us.
Yeah, so I do update my Instagram most frequently. It is Athena_Estelle. And then the name of the podcast is Delivered, Finding Victory After Postpartum Depression.
So good. And we will drop those in the show notes too, so people can just click and they don't have to worry about spelling. So we'll make it easy for everyone to come hang out with you. So Athena, thank you so much for being here. This was, like you said, a challenge, like a difficult topic to talk about, but I really appreciate it. And, the tips and the tricks and the strategies and just sharing your story, I know is going to relate with so many people. And so you're just amazing. So thank you. You now have to be my best friend. You didn't know that, but now you know. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad I got to be here.
I'll remind you at the end of every single episode, you do not owe the world pretty, but you do owe yourself to step into your personal power because you, my friend, are a powerhouse woman. Go out and prove it to yourself.